Hey friends, I'm like always screwing with the tech stuff here. How are you, besties and bosses? Happy Tuesday. I'm excited to hang with y'all. I'm excited for today's conversation. I'm also a few minutes late. I was helping a few clients in base camp and totally lost track of time. We're absolutely a few minutes after 6. So for those of you who are used to me being right on time, thanks for waiting for me for those few minutes. So today I want to chat about, if you want better results, the question to ask yourself. This is a question I'm always asking clients when they come to me. They're ready to scale. They want to, launch a new program. They want to step into another income level. They want to step into another level in their business, and they're having a conversation around that. And what I often find is when that comes up, there's a lot of noise that comes up around what they need to focus on, what they need to do, what they need to do with their strategy. Like, all the noise comes up. And so what I want to chat about today is one of the questions if you're my client, I've probably asked you this before, that I ask my clients quite a bit. And I want to chat a little bit about why I ask this question, why it's really important to look at a version of this question in your business if you're looking for getting bigger results, if you're looking for that next level, if you're looking to grow or scale in some way. Why I think this is really, really important to pause and ask this question. I'm going to share kind of a fun way to play with this question, and then I'll share an exercise. This is one I personally use. It's one of my favorite mindset practices. I think I've shared this once in this group in the past at some point, but I'm going to share it again because it really applies with what we're doing here. And it's a mindset practice I still use, and I have used it at every level in my business. It's been really game changing, and it's something a lot of my clients use as well. And I just find it very, very valuable for all the reasons we're going to dive into today. If you're here, say hi. I know I see a few faces, but I don't know who it is. So feel free to say hi. And as always, as we're chatting through this, ask questions. I love the questions. I'm here for you, so I want to be able to answer any of those questions. So I always want to tease this out, because once I share the question with you, it seems so simple, but I want to explain all of this why. We'll go into the exercise and some of the practices more. But the question I often ask my clients, so when they're coming to me, they're not where they want to be, or they want to scale, they want to grow, they want to get to that next level. Instead of immediately running to strategy, and strategy is important, instead of immediately looking at what do they need to do, a question I will always ask them is, how do they need to show up in their business to attain that result? Or I'll phrase it in another way. Sometimes they'll ask, who do you need to be to get that result? Or if you already had that result, how would you be showing up in your business? The reason I ask this, and the reason this is so important, there's the quote, I don't know who this is by, but kind of that quote and idea that what got you here won't get you to where you want to go next. Anyone heard that one before? Let me know if you've heard it. It's one I really love, and I think it's really, really important in business, especially as you're scaling, because the way the human mind is designed and the way most of us are functioning is we are constantly living in patterns, and we are constantly replaying old patterns, and we tend to live our life, create our business based on what has already happened in our past. And so most of us we're kind of looking behind our shoulder to what's already happened, and that is informing all of our decisions in the way we show up in our life and the way we show up in business. So for most people, for most of my clients, for most people, when they're feeling stuck in business or they want to go to the next level, whatever they're working with is based on not forward thinking, not something new. It's often based on something that's already happened in the past, or a pattern that they're replaying over and over again. And so it makes it really hard to create anything new, especially if we take a look at that concept, what got you here won't get you to where you want to go next, right? Makes it very, very challenging. Let me know if this is making sense, and hey, whoever is on, say hello. So one of the reasons I like to ask this question is it shifts thinking. It's a forward-pacing question, and it shifts thinking from the present, which if we're in the present, we're actually really looking at the past, and it shifts it into the forward, into what hasn't been created yet. And it challenges you to start thinking in ways you're not currently thinking. It challenges you to think outside of your current patterns, outside of how you're currently showing up. And it gives you an opportunity to really see what you need to step into, what you need to shift to create those next level results in your business. What's the other quote that comes to mind is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That's kind of what we're talking about here. A lot of times in business, it's we keep doing the same thing over and over again, or stopping and starting and burning things down, which is still doing the same thing over and over again, just in different ways and expecting different results. And what we want to start looking at are what are the micro tweaks you need to make if you want to up level your results, if you want better results, if you want something different in your life. I think the question I threw to everyone in the email was, and I think I put it in here in the group as well, is it's that quote that if you want better answers, ask better questions. And I really think it's if you want better results, ask better questions. And so this is a better question to ask yourself. Who do you need to be to get those next level results? How would you be showing up if you already had those results? And what this also allows you to do is to start really thinking about the being quality, because again, we have to be it before we have it in business, in life. This is something I've seen to be true at every level of my business. You have to be it before you have it. And what I find for, again, so many entrepreneurs is they have this backwards. They're like, well, once I have it, then I'll be it. Once I have it, then I'll think it. Once I have that next level result, then I'll show up differently. And that's just not how anything in life works. I think the example I give to clients all the time is working out or exercise. I think it's so easy and I probably have said this in here before, but I'm gonna say it again. I think it's so easy for us to say, okay, I wanna get in shape, and like, how do I need to show up? Like, how would I show up if I was someone who was, let's say, a runner, because I'm a runner? Well, I would eat this way, I would sleep this way, I would treat my body this way, I would do these things. That's how I would show up if I was already a runner. Those are the very things then you need to do to become a runner. But what most of us do is we sit in our current state, we look back to what we've already done, we're like, well, I want to be a runner, but let me just repeat my old patterns and see if that'll get me into being a runner. Let me keep eating the same junk. Let me keep sleeping the same way. Let me keep not going on runs, and then expect myself to be a runner, expect those results to show up. I think when I say that, that actually sounds quite absurd, and yet this is what happens in business all the time. Anyone raise their hand if you've ever played that game with yourself before, where you're like, I want this result in business, and when I get that result, I'll start showing up differently. I'll start thinking differently. I'll start behaving differently. I know, like, when that happens, then I'll have the evidence of how I'm supposed to be. I say supposed in air quotes. When it's really in reverse, you have to be and show up as that person first, and then the results come. If I want to be the runner, I have to do all of sleep well, eat well, show up for my runs, and start running first and be a runner before I actually am a runner. Does that concept make sense? Grab a sip of water here. And what I find then is this really then also affects the way, if we bring it back to business, the way you're taking a look at your business and the strategy you're playing out for those next level results. It's really easy to say, I want to scale to $1 million. And then when we say, great, so if you were making $1 million, how would you be showing up in your business every day? Who would you be? What would you be doing? How would you be thinking? How would you be acting? And I think it's really interesting to see then where, like, oh, this is really interesting. It's not at all how I'd be showing up, how I am right now. Or if it is, then you know you're already on the path to making that happen. But again, what most people do, and why most people spin out, and why most people live Groundhog's Day in their business, where it feels like they're just stuck in this perpetual loop, is they're not asking themselves better questions. And instead it's, I want to scale to $1 million. Okay, what's the thing I need to sell more of? Or what's the thing like strategy I can just work harder on? And that's kind of looking at it backwards. It's like, first we need to figure out these other pieces to the puzzle. Let me know if that's making sense, y'all. So one of the questions with this, and this question that I'm going to share is not mine, and I wish I remembered who I heard this from, but this is not a question of mine. I want to give credit to who deserves credit for this. So if anyone has heard this before, knows where it comes from, share with me, let me know. But I think a way then to take this to the next level, and this goes back to this idea of, if you want better results, ask better questions. If you want different results than what you're already getting in your business, ask yourself better questions. Stop asking the same questions and expecting to get different answers and different results. And so one of those questions, and this is again comes from someone else, is really to play with this idea of, okay, so if you know how you'd be showing up, and if you know what you'd be doing differently, like if you can like fast forward to the you that has these next level results you want. Let's say it's a 6-figure year, and we're looking at, if you can fast forward and get it really into like, how would you be thinking? How would you be behaving? How would you be running your business? What I find is a really fascinating question then, in a game to play, or this exercise to play, is to envision that version of you, the version of you who has the 6 figures, the version of you who has the fully booked out programs, the version of you who has a, 5-figure launch, the version of you who's scaled to $1 million, and ask that version of you to do an audit on your current business. Your current business in terms of how you're showing up and being as a CEO, and in terms of what you're doing in your business, and ask that version of you to tell you what they would do differently and how they'd show up differently. What this forces you to do is to step outside of your business and get into that observer role, to unhook, because most of us are so close to it, and that's, this is really what coaching is doing all the time, but to step outside of your business and to really take a different perspective and to really look at your business from the future, which I think sounds a little sci-fi, but instead of how most of us are operating on default, which is if we even get into the observer role, most of us are looking at it based in the present, which is based on the past. And for those of you, if you're watching now on the replay, if you're kind of catching up here, just to really explain that concept again, everything in our current world, life that we have created is all based on actions we've taken in the past, right? I am here today because of all the things, decisions, choices, actions I've taken in the past. And most of us don't create from the future, we create from the past, meaning we just then keep repeating what we've done in the past. We repeat patterns. Our brain loves routine, our brain loves patterns. We keep repeating over and over again what we've done in the past. So it's very hard to create. It's why people get stuck. It's very hard to create something new, because I was saying this at the beginning of the live, it's sort of like we're trying to create bigger results, better results, new results by looking backwards. And then it's like we can't see where we're going. And we just keep repeating. So even if we step outside of ourselves and we're really taking a look from present at what's going on in the landscape of our business, it's usually through the lens of the past, what we already know. And on top of that, anyone who's trying to shift patterns, who's trying to, have a higher level of thinking, who's trying to have the more of that CEO mindset, it's very challenging to do that when you're just replaying old patterns, old stories, and you're just recreating them over and over again in your business. Let me know if that concept is making sense, which is why it's really, really important to ask yourself better questions, and better questions that force you to look forward and that force you to take a look at yourself, the you that you haven't stepped into yet, the you that you haven't created yet. This allows you to actually have a different perspective that isn't based on patterns you're just repeating over and over again. This is how you start to create a higher level of thinking. This is how you start to create higher level results. This is how you get different answers than the same answer you've basically been giving yourself in different ways all over and over again in your life. Maybe this is, here's an example that pops up for me. For those of you who are in an ongoing relationship or know someone who is, have you ever noticed how in relationships people tend to argue and fight? It's like they have the same argument over and over again. It's kind of what we're talking about here. That's because we tend to replay patterns from the past over and over again. To shift out of having the same argument over and over again, we really have to step outside of ourselves and start operating from the future. Otherwise, we just do, our brain is just wired for patterns. Y'all are very quiet, so let me know if that's making sense, because I feel like this is a bit of an abstract concept, but it's very much based in how our brain is wired, and it is very much tied into creating next level results in your business and how you show up. So I want to make sure this is landing. And it really ties into that concept of, to create anything new in life, you have to first create a higher level of mind, meaning a new level of thinking, which is really it's like time traveling, stepping into the future so you're not replaying the past. Haley says, I'm with you. Hey, Haley, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad this is making sense. So I'm just pulling up my notes here. So one of those questions is to tap into that future self and really take an audit of your business now and ask, what is the one thing your future self would tell you? What is that one piece of advice? What is the one thing your future self would tell you to change or to show up differently? I think you'll be really fascinated to see what comes up and how this is probably going to be a very different answer than what you've been telling yourself in the past. Again, because you're asking yourself a better question and you're shifting your thinking to forward focus instead of past focused. So playing with this, and this is what I talk with clients about a lot, and this is what I want to share with all of you, because this is I think one of my favorite exercises, and how I make quite a lot of decisions in business, and where I think I've been able to step into new levels of success in business, and something I see work really well for my clients for all the reasons we've just been chatting about. Because your brain really needs to be able to shift to that higher level of thinking to create something new. You have to be it before you are it, before you have it. And that is really taking the time to get clear on who is that next level you in your business, and really starting to identify and craft an identity for this person. So you know how in business we create business brands or business personas for our ideal clients. We have client avatars, and we do this for the people, you know, we're serving and working with. What I find we don't always do is do the same thing for ourselves in business, in terms of, if you want to scale to $1 million, there is an avatar of yourself who's like living in the future, who is making $1 million. Who is that version of you? How does that version of you show up? How does that version of you think? How does that version of you operate day to day? How does that version of you handle things in their business? What kind of decisions are they making? How do they go through their day? And really taking the time, the same way you would on some of those client avatar exercises, which I have a love-hate relationship with. No, they do serve a purpose, but whole nother conversation, but I have a love-hate relationship with them. But I think this is really valuable. The same way you would take the time to do that for the potential clients you're going to work with, take the time to do this for the future of your business, because you're going to arrive at that future time, that future you anyway. And if you don't take the time to get clear on who you want that next level of future you to be, you're going to arrive to your future by default. Meaning, what we just talked about, if you arrive at your future by default, you're going to arrive at your future just replaying patterns of the past, which means you're going to essentially be the you are now, again in the future in your business. So if you want those next level results in your business, it's really important to start to think very intentionally about creating who this person is, so you can step into them. So a lot of times with clients, I will have them create a name for this person, their next level self, and we will use this as a tool to ask better questions in their business, so they can start to look at their business from that future version of themselves, instead of that past version of themselves that is essentially trying to keep them stuck in patterns in their business. Let's see here. I feel like there was something I wanted to share around that. What this really helps with, this is what I want to share with. So then when we're tapping into your strategy, when you're taking a look at your strategy in your business, if you can start to do this from your future level thinking self, I think it'll really start to help you stop overcomplicating strategy. So what happens, I think why people start and stop strategy, why people overcomplicate strategy, why strategy in business gets, I don't know, it like grows arms and legs and becomes this like very confusing thing, is because they want to grow, they want to, you want to grow, you want to scale, and you're pulling in all of your past fears, drama stuff into your strategy. And it's just like looking at all the things and trying to figure out how to do all the things and thinking that's the way to grow. And this is such a side tangent, but anyone who follows Emily Hirsch's work, she always talks about how marketing always works, strategy is pretty simple, strategy always works. But not all strategy works for everyone, and you shouldn't follow all strategy. And I'm a big fan with clients, like, just because there's a strategy doesn't mean you should fucking follow it in your business. And so what happens when we're stuck kind of in the mud of, I want these future results, I'm really stuck in playing out patterns from the past, I'm also stuck in comparison, I don't know what to do, I just feel like the only way to get there is to just like throw a bunch of shit at the wall. Our brain gets very confused, and that's when we start overcomplicating things. That's when we start like grasping at straws. That's when we start either starting and stopping strategies or trying new ones because we saw someone else do it, because there's no context outside of, well, what you've been doing over and over again in your past. When you can take the moment to pause and really look to the future you and step outside of all the noise that's going on in your business and brain, I think it really allows you to simplify the choices and decisions you make in your business and the strategy that you're choosing to implement, because you're able to look from you at what's going on and take that bigger picture, the bigger lens scope of your business. You're able to have a very different vantage point, and you're able to lean into your self-trust and what you know to be true that is usually grounded in a lot of simplicity. It's when we're not trusting ourselves, when we're wrapped around the patterns of, fear, anxiety, mistrust, not knowing what's coming up, that we choose to overcomplicate things, that we choose to throw spaghetti at the wall. When you can tap into the you that you already know is like, how they're showing up, what they're doing, what they're thinking, like they already kind of have, like they have the cheat sheet. It's like they're the fortune teller that can tell you what's coming up ahead. I think it really allows you to simplify and see, I'm already on the path. Now, this person, your future self, can really take a look at your strategy and help you see the small areas to tweak instead of all the areas to overcomplicate. Let me know if that's making sense, because I feel like I'm going out in broad concepts today, and I want this to feel very simple and easy for everyone here. So kind of taking it back to that exercise in terms of thinking about who is that future you, how do they show up, and asking those better questions. What you can do there is really tap into that next level you, if you've given them a name. Like I like to give my next level me a name. Have them ask you questions, whether you're someone who likes to journal, or you're someone who likes to visualize, or you're someone who likes to talk it out with a partner. Really have that next level you ask yourself questions about your strategy and about what you'd be doing differently. So I'm going to use myself as an example, but whenever I'm looking at business and like how I want to scale and how I want to grow to the next level, again, if I ask from this me, I will overcomplicate things so quickly because I'm only wrapped around what I currently know. I'm only wrapped around, it's like my default, right? My default path that is based on my past. For any of you who follow Joe Dispenza's work, I feel like he does a very brilliant job of explaining how we as humans just recreate our past over and over again and relive our past experiences basically over and over again until we consciously choose to do something different. Versus what I do in my business is I sit down with my future self. This sounds crazy, but this is really what I do. I sit down with my future self and I ask questions, about my future clients and what they need, and my future self, and I'll have her take a look at my strategy, and I'll have her ask me questions about like choices I'm making or decisions I'm making. I will make investment decisions by having her ask me questions or by dialoguing with her. I will tap into, okay, so I know my future me, like she thinks this way, she does these things. She, for example, maybe she holds boundaries differently, or maybe she speaks up in a different way, or maybe she takes up space in a different way. If you've been hanging out with me, taking up space is a big thing of mine. So I will ask her, like, how does that apply to what I'm trying to decide here? What would you do differently? How would you be showing up differently here? When I recently brought on another team member, I chatted sounds so funny. I journaled with that's how I chat with my future self. I'm a journaler. I chatted with my future self, and instead of, if I had made the decision based on present Kim is really based on past Kim, I would have probably made a very different hiring decision and investment decision. But I chatted with future Kim, who knows the kind of investments we make. She knows where the business is at in the future. Like, that's what I'm stepping into. And I also trust I'm going to step into that and create that. So I trust her wisdom. And when I was journaling with future Kim, she really gave me advice around a hiring decision that I think would have been, again, very different than if I had just based it on really what my nervous system would have been having come up around what's going, whatever was going on presently, which again is based on past stuff. The beautiful thing about this, aside from, again, allowing you to step outside yourself and to really unhook from your present emotions, which I think when we're hooked into our present emotions and we're trying to make decisions in business, especially about growing, that's when we ask ourselves shitty questions. I'm an emotional person. I'm all about processing your emotions. But when we're when we're hooked by our emotions, it's very hard to make clear decisions in your business that serve you. And I think when you step into that future self, again, you're unhooking from all the emotional stories and baggage that we all as humans have from our past, and you allow yourself to get to a more neutral place. I think you just allow yourself. It's almost like you get that higher level vision and scope of what's going on. And that's when you ask yourself better questions. And I feel like I'm going to keep repeating this, but it feels so important. It's the same. If you want better answers, ask better questions. But truly, if you want better results in your business, ask better questions. Courtney says, hey, Kim. Hey, nice to see you, Courtney. Nice to have you here. Talking all about projecting into the future and using that to make business decisions. Let me know if y'all have questions while we're chatting about this. I think one of the biggest advantages to this, and when we think about asking these better questions and kind of bringing this back to what I was just talking about and thinking about like how you would show up if you were stepping into those results, how you would be behaving, how you would be thinking, is really remembering that when you're asking these questions, the whole goal here is, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. It's not about like getting the right answer, and it's not necessarily about like, now this is the thing you have to like hold yourself to or make yourself wrong if you're not showing up that way. It is really and truly about allowing yourself to interrupt the pattern of replaying your past self long enough to kind of unhook again from those emotions so you can create a different vantage point to observe yourself, to see yourself, to just look at things differently. Does that make sense? Because I think sometimes this exercise, I'll chat with clients. I think sometimes they worry they're going to like get it wrong because, we don't know what's actually in the future. And it's like, I think there's just like this worry that will come up. And I think the big reminder here is you can't get this wrong. The exercise, the whole point of this is in allowing you to shift out of those patterns that keep you stuck so that, again, you can take a different landscape viewpoint of your business and the decisions you're making. The other thing I'll offer here that feels important is, so something I was chatting about with a client this morning, the really beautiful thing about this is quite literally, we all get to create whatever we choose and decide. Most of us just aren't taking the time to consciously choose and decide what we want to create and then allowing ourselves to step into that and clearing out the muck that allows us to continually step into that. So when you're playing with this exercise and stepping into that, future you and asking questions from that place and thinking about your business from that place and thinking about, how the next level you would show up and how they would think and how they would behave and what they would have and what they would do. And you're asking yourself these better questions. Not only are you allowing yourself to look at a current situation, if you have a question, differently, but you're starting to consciously create what you want in your business, consciously create your future, and you're allowing yourself to go down that path, again, instead of the one you would by default. And by default, and this is what we were talking about earlier, by default, if you're not consciously choosing your future and choosing to step into it, which you can absolutely create, you will just create whatever happens by default, which again is just going to be a repetition of the past showing up in new ways, because that is how our brain is wired if we're not pattern interrupting and consciously choosing new higher level thoughts and a new path to direct ourselves towards. And I think the important thing here to remember, like adding here's like a +1 thing I would remind everyone here is the reason we will go down that default in business and in life based on those past memories, those past experiences, and just replay them over and over again. The reason that happens so easily, and it is the default, is only because the brain filters for repetition. The brain is just wired like this is what it knows, this is how it learns. Heightened emotional experiences embed into the brain longer. It just repeats because that's what it does, which is why we can almost like predict the future based on what's happened in the past if nothing changes. But the key part here is the reason that happens by default is just because it's been repeated so long. Meaning, if you can hit the pause button long enough to step outside yourself, to step into the future, to ask those better questions, to consciously choose what that future you is thinking, being, doing, how they're behaving, how they're showing up in business, what decisions they're making, and you can repeat that enough, that will become the new default. It is no different than your past and present way of being. Outside of, it just needs more repetition to get shifted into the new default. I'm like always wary to like brain geek out on y'all too much, but I'm gonna brain geek out on you a little bit because I think it's just nice to understand that this isn't just like woo-woo manifest talk, though it is also woo-woo manifest talk, and this will help you manifest more. But just to understand what's actually going on in the brain when you're doing this, the way the brain works, you basically have little pathways, think of them like highways in your brain. And every time you drive down a highway in your brain, meaning every time you have a thought, that highway just, it's like you pave another layer on the highway and it just gets stronger. The grooves in your brain get stronger, which is why when we're talking about the default and how we just repeat patterns and memories and we relive the same things generally over and over again, it's simply because those highways in your brain, it's just like you've driven back and forth on them so many times, they're just, those grooves are really strong in your brain. For anyone who drives, I don't in New York City anymore, but I used to in LA, it's sort of like when, if you have like, back when the world was open, if you ever drove your kids to school, or if you ever drove to a 9 to 5, or if you ever like had a favorite coffee shop you went to, you know how you could like just kind of get there on autopilot? You wouldn't even have to think about it. You just got there by default because your brain just like had treaded that path so many times. Kind of the same thing here. Our brain works very similarly. And if you want to step into that future and create that new higher level of thinking and ask yourself better questions and operate your business from that future you, the same mechanism is at play. You just have to consciously choose to take your car and put it onto a new highway, and you have to consciously remember to drive down that highway for a while, or that road for a while, until it becomes the new default, until that groove is strong enough. And it's sort of like, we'll use the driving example. Let's say your kid graduates from elementary school to middle school, and it's a new school they have to go to, and you have to drive them to school when the world is open. What you might do the first few times is accidentally drive your old route and drop them. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just drove the wrong path, because that's the route you're used to taking. And so for a while, you would have to consciously sit there and think and choose, okay, kids going to a new school, I consciously have to this is like a future, this is the next level in your business, right? I've got to consciously think, I need to take that different street, take that different route, we're going somewhere different. And you would have to consciously think about that for a while until it would become the new normal. And then all of a sudden it would become the new default. Same here, and same with, this is how you rewire your brain. You would just have to repeat, that route, dropping off your kid enough times until it became the new normal. The same thing happens in your brain. Your brain just filters for repetition. So when you want to create that higher level of thinking, what I'm kind of bringing it back to what we were talking about, what most people are running their business through, and the operating system and the highway they're driving their business on, and the reason most people stay stuck and wonder, why is it no matter what I do, I keep getting the same results, I keep getting stuck? It's because they keep driving that same highway, because that's just the default, that's what their brain knows. And why we're talking about asking the better questions and creating your business from this, future version of yourself, and using that as the filter in your business and repeating that, is that allows you to consciously start to get on a new highway in your brain. And the more you consciously get on that new highway in your brain, the more you repeat that, and the more you ask yourself questions from that, and the more you really live into who this person is, because the more you live into it, the more emotion you feel. And the more emotion you feel, the faster it speeds up the process of creating new memories in your brain and new neural pathways. Thank you for hanging with my brain geek out. But the more you do this, the more that becomes the new default. And that's how, asking better questions, that's how, if you want better results, that's how you stop the default and stop kind of living in Groundhog Day in your business and start to create a higher level of thinking and create something new. It really is taking the time to consciously ask yourself questions that are higher level questions, but specifically from that future you that already has the results you want, and tapping into the knowledge and wisdom from him or her, getting clear on those answers, making decisions from that, and repeating that over and over again. Okay. This was, I hope, helpful for all of you. I hope this is something that will allow you to just start thinking about, if you're feeling stuck in business, why you're feeling stuck in business, and just allow you to shift your thinking so you're just stepping out of that loop of default, stepping out of that loop of repeating the same thing over and over again, starting to think about how can I ask myself better questions, and who do I need to be to ask myself better questions, and then starting really to create your business from that future you, that future space, and allowing that repetition to take place so you're really creating those better results instead of getting stuck in default. If you have any questions, I know many of you will probably watch this on the replay, feel free to pop them below. I know this is one of those concepts that, I don't know, I like live into this every day. So for me, it feels like, yeah, everyone talks about this, but I realize for some people, this might be like, wait, you're saying what now? And you mean what when it comes to business? So please, please, please feel free to pop a question. If you have a reflection, if you want clarity on anything here, as you're watching on the replay, pop that below. I'm always so happy to share answers on any of that. And for those of you watching now or on the replay, 2 quick announcements. I have a very, very special gift that I am sharing with all of you. I will be announcing that next week. I wish I could announce it now, but we don't have links and things. It's completely free. I am really, 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 really excited to share this with all of you. I'm surprised. I'm awful at surprises and keeping surprises like this. So I'm really surprised I haven't let the cat out of the bag yet. I'm gonna share with you next week. I don't think anyone is doing anything like this online, so I'm just so excited. So watch this space next week. I will be sharing that with you. And if any of you want support in your business, building, growing, scaling your business, getting those next level results, asking yourself better questions, stepping into that future version of yourself and that next level version of yourself, really starting to create your business intentionally instead of by default so that you can make more money, book more clients, get fully booked, have those record-breaking income months. That's what I support my clients with. I'm excellent at supporting my clients with the mindset portion, getting out of their own way, asking those better questions, as well as really looking at strategy and helping them with the marketing and sales and looking at it from that outside perspective so they're executing in a very simple way so it works for them for those next level results. I'm booking my last spots for the year. So if that's the kind of support you're interested in, if you've been curious about what it would look like to work together, please don't hesitate to book a call. My consultations are completely free, very pressure free. I'm very big on working with clients who are a fit. So I promise if it's not a fit for the work I do, I will let you know very transparently because I only want to work with, clients when it's a good fit and it's the right time for you. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to book a call or reach out with any questions as I have very limited and few spots left for the rest of the year. I've already started to book January and then we'll be looking at February for next year. So grab one of those last spots if you want those. Melinda says, hi, Kim, love you. Hi, I love you back. It's so nice to see you. Oh, I'm so happy to see your face. It's like the what do you call it? The avatar, but I feel like I'm seeing your face. Very nice to see you in here and happy to hear from you. You're catching me at the tail end here, but I'm sending hugs and love and I hope you're doing well and shoot me a message. Let me know how you're doing. All right, y'all, those are my 2 announcements. Let me know again if you have questions on this live. I love you all. I will be back next week. We'll have another live stream and we'll talk some more strategy next week and I will share that big announcement with y'all. Bye.